This episode of the Mega Meeple is brought to you by our supporters over at Pod Pledge. Welcome back to the Mega Meeple, this show all about gamers and the games that bring them together. This is episode 37. Last week we had the question of the week, and actually we've been kind of dropping the ball on this one recently, so we're going to correct that right now. But the question of the week for the last episode was, what was your very first board game that you purchased? So we have on Facebook, Ivan Ska said Catan. Yeah, I think that's either Sellers of Catan or Ticket to Ride seems to be the two really big gateway games. And Matt Richardson said the Axis and Allies 2nd Edition. And then Albert Ross, also on Facebook, said Avalon Hill's Panzer Blitz. And then we got some replies on Twitter. So Twitter, a pair of Dice Paradise said, the first modern board game purchase that I credit with bringing me back into the hobby in 2012 was Battleship Galaxies. And he says, man, I wish some expansions had been made for that. Also, in reply to that, also on Twitter, King, your moderator Chris, added to that, I would love to have played this. Seems like this would have been a slow pitch to my gaming sensibilities. And then also on Twitter, Board Gamer Blues said, my first hobby game was Star Wars The Queen's Gambit when it first released, and he says he still owns it to this day. He said he got me into the hobby without me realizing it. All I cared about was the theme. Later, I had a friend who hosted game nights, and they had some of the lighter type of hobby games. And then also on Twitter, Bermuda's End said, I think mine was Catan, and it's been so long now I can't remember for sure. Yeah, for those of us who've been in it for a while, it's kind of hard to remember way back when, and unless that game really knocked your socks off. Thank you so much for people who responded to our question of the week. Well, we'll have one each week. Interact with us on any of our social media sites. And the links to all those will be on the social media page on the website. It's themegameeple.com. So go check those out. Well, we are introducing, or at least putting officially on our podcast, a new segment. Now, this is pretty much more or less what I've been doing all along, but I think we're going to just make it like an official name and official segment on the beginning of each episode. And I'm basically kind of taking this idea from two things. You know, Tom Vassels has his Tom Thinks segment on the Board Game Breakfast videos. And if any of you have been a fan of Dennis Miller and his HBO stand-up series, you know he had a segment called Dennis Miller Rants, which he would start out. It was a little 5-minute spiel that he did. He'd start out by saying, you know, I don't want to get off on a rant, but, and then he'd go off into like this 5-minute rant about some topical thing. And then he'd end the segment with, that's just my opinion, I could be wrong. So I'm kind of putting those two things together, and there's a formal segment of the podcast called Thom Rants. So, and one thing I'd like to rant about is Board Game Geek, and specifically the rating system that they have on their website. If a game's been out for a while, I could see, yes, there's some relevance to the ratings people give on these games. But, when you go to Board Game Geek, a game like Nemesis from Awakened Realms, right now, at the time of this recording, this thing hasn't even finished on Kickstarter. It's still live in Kickstarter, and it's already getting rankings. It has, at this time, 121 ratings. And Rising Sun has 758 ratings. Now, true, at this time, the backers of that Kickstarter have already started getting their copies, but the game has not been released to the public yet, and it won't be until March 30th. And even games that have so recently announced, like Clank the Mummy's Curse, already has 5 ratings. So my question is, who the hell's been rating these things? The game is not available, or it's not even been released yet. So where are all these ratings coming from? Now, when I do like a review of a game or a review of anything, it's because I've played the game enough times to be able to form an opinion about it. Like, for example, there's been people that have asked me, well, what do you think of this game? And if it's a game that I haven't played yet, I would say, well, I don't know, I haven't played it yet, but I've heard a lot of good things about it, or I've heard a lot of bad things about it. Like U-Boot. At this time it has 44 ratings and 77 comments. The rank overall is like 8,075. That game is still on Kickstarter. It hasn't been released yet. Nobody's played it other than the designers and play testers. I'm going to get into that a little bit, a few seconds here. But really, when you get down to it, these games that have not been released yet, and people are ranking them, 10, 9, 8, whatever rankings they're giving them, those are not rankings on the games. They're rankings on the hype and how much excitement they have in playing that game. Now, back when I was working in forensics, we had a mantra, and that was, you're not entitled to an opinion until you see the evidence. So when I apply that same mantra to this, it's like, hey, you're not entitled to an opinion until you've actually played the damn game. So it goes back to my original question. These games have not been released yet and haven't even been seen yet by the public. Few hundred people that are ranking these things, who are they? And I would submit to you that they could only be comprised of one of two groups of people, or a mix of them. Number one, people who are just ranking the game based on hype only and media only. They haven't played the game, and hell, how many games have you been hyped up about and you got it and you played it actually, and then you're disappointed? It didn't live up to the hype. It wasn't what you expected. It wasn't what you built this thing up to be. And if you don't believe me, I have 2 words for you. First Martians. Or there are people that have play tested the game and they're ranking it because, well, number one, that's not very relevant because they're ranking a prototype of the game that they've been testing. And number two, why are they even putting their opinion out there anyway? I'll give you an example. Ashes: Rise of the Phoenixborn. We've had a lot of new decks finally come out for that game. I was a playtester on 4 of them. And I remember at one point, I had said that on social media, I had voiced that, one particular character was going to be my new favorite Phoenixborn. And I just got flamed because me saying that was allegedly breaking my no disclosure agreement. And I fired back saying, well, I guess you better tell Fernanda Suarez that she's breaking her agreement because she said that, one of those decks was one of her favorites as well. Because she had said that the Phoenixborn of Victoria Glassfire was her new favorite Phoenixborn as far as making the art and stuff. So I thought, well, hell, if she said publicly that was her favorite Phoenixborn before that deck was even released, did you guys bother to tell her she was breaking her NDA? So it goes back to people ranking the games that haven't been released yet. If they're not ranking it based on hype, then are they play testers for that game? And if they are, they need to shut the up. That's right. Mark your calendars, people. Episode 37, the first episode where we used the bleep audio. So, hey, I paid $4 for that audio file. I'm gonna get some use out of it. So, and again, I'm not talking about games that have been out for years or have actually been released to the public and people have gotten a chance to play them and form, a relevant opinion about it by playing it. I'm talking about these games that they're still live on Kickstarter. It's going to be a year and a half before those games come out, and already people are ranking them as like number 1 or 2 or whatever. So by that perspective, I would say rankings like that are irrelevant. They don't mean jack. So the question of this week for this episode is, how much stock do you put in rankings and ratings in purchasing your board games? How much does rankings influence your purchasing decisions or decisions on what games you back on Kickstarter? Because I would submit to you that unless the people leaving these ratings and comments actually physically played the game, and I'm not talking about a prototype, I'm talking about played an actual finished, published product of the game, and then formed an opinion about it. Unless they did that, their rankings and ratings are irrelevant. They don't mean anything. They're not voting or ranking it based on the quality of the game. They're ranking it because of how excited they are or how hyped up they are about, oh, here's a new game, I want to get it. Voted as number 1. So what do you Meeples think? Comment on any of our social media outlets. And again, the links to all those can be found on our website. Welcome back to the Mega Meeple, and we have as our guest this episode, coming from a rather successful Kickstarter, is Marshal Britt, who has a game right now on Kickstarter until looks like till the end of the first week in February, and it's called Re-Chord, and that's CHORD as in a guitar chord. How you doing, Marshal?
Good. How's it going? Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
It's great. So, first of all, congratulations on a successful Kickstarter. Pretty much just hit it right out of the park. Now,
Thank you.
So now, probably one of the things that people may think is like, do you have to be a musician to play this game?
Absolutely not. Actually, the non-guitarists seem to have as much or more fun than guitarists.
Okay.
It's it's definitely a Euro at heart. So it's an action selection game. You've got one of 3 choices, so you really don't have to know anything about music. You will learn a little bit about the guitar, just the names of the different parts of the neck. And then you actually will collect some real guitar chords that you try to play. So you'll learn some real guitar chords too.
Oh, sweet.
But no, you need 0 knowledge. And actually having guitar knowledge doesn't help you greatly in the game.
Okay, well, that's good. So, I'm a bass player for the most part, but...
well, you know the first 4 strings then. You're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, there we go. But the game funded in 7 or so hours, right? So it was...
Yeah, in just about 7 hours. It was a pretty incredible day one. Our goal was 7,500, and in about 7 hours, everyone jumped on board.
That's
We're at a little over 21,000 right now, and we've got just under 2 weeks to go. I think about 13 days to go, in on February 8th. So,
Okay.
yeah, just really, really thrilled about how well it's gone and how well everyone's sort of responded to the amplifier box and things like that. It's just been it's been a lot of cool comments to see about the game so far.
That's neat. It looks like a Marshall there, isn't it? So.
It just so happens to be that I actually generally throughout my life have had Marshall amps and maybe just a little bit of egotistical reason there since my name's Marshall, but they just always spoke to me. So it was definitely an easy callback to that particular amplifier.
That's cool. Yeah, just the overall look of it is really neat, and the board the board is like you say the first. Looks like 5 or 6 frets of the guitar fretboard.
Yeah, the first 5 frets of a guitar, a 6-string guitar fretboard. Exactly.
Yeah. and I understand we're using real guitar picks now.
Yeah, so they're actually now we've designed our own custom guitar picks for the game, but they're definitely real and usable. And actually, I think we have an add-on that people can get another set of them for $10 to use to play guitar with. You know, if you just want to use the Re-Chord ones to play guitar with, which is actually, I was looking for picks online recently, and I guess, you know, for some blank ones, that's about what it would cost you. But for Fender picks, it's insane. We had gotten a set to start testing this, and, you know, I think 12 picks is, you know, $6 or $7 or something like that. So it's picks are great to have. I have just bags of them because I've been playing guitar so long. I play poorly still, but I have a bunch of guitar picks. So that's actually how the game kind of got started. So
well, let's talk about that. How do you come up with the idea of the game? And I call this my barroom napkin question.
That's actually a great. You're not too far off. That's how half of our ideas get started. Is usually at least in a bar room or while we're having some drinks. A lot of the time, this particular one, I sent Andrew, my development partner, a picture on my phone. I just took a quick picture of 5 guitar picks in a circle, different colored ones, different. They were actually, I think, even some of them were different shapes at that point. But I just sent him a picture of 5 guitar picks in a circle and said, make a game. And I'll do that every once in a while. I'll just kind of jokingly say, I'll send him a picture of a quarter and, a gummy bear or something and say, make a game. And, we just try and come up with, silly little things. Here's what you got, make a game. And so we started working on this thing with the picks, and it was, we actually, I think initially the prototype name was Take Your Pick, very puntastic. That's kind of just how we tend to work. And so there were the picks in a circle, and you were trying to get them into the same color and sort of get them into the same circle if you could. You'd score points for doing these different things. And one playtest, I think probably about a month into working on that game being live, one of our playtesters said, why don't you put them on a fretboard? And that was it. I mean, we just started developing what became Re-Chord immediately after that. It was, we put everything on a fretboard, and then immediately I thought, well, we can use real guitar chords that you've got to place, picks in those locations. And then once you do that, sort of a la Ticket to Ride, once you've completed your locations, you play it down and you've got it no matter what, And so then we moved on to, well, if you can play multiple chords, then you can play your song. And it just sort of developed quickly after just adding the fretboard. But that was just one comment from one playtester. That's why I say this all the time. It's so important to take even your earliest prototypes to a group of people and sit them down and have them play it, because something like that can spawn an entire, again, it's our Kickstarter is fully funded. The game's going to be made. So that one comment, it essentially was a catalyst for eventually the game becoming something that lots of people will have on their shelves. So yeah, I always stress play testing because it got our game to such a good place.
Oh wow, that's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's a really, really cool sort of little origin story that we just started fooling around with the guitar pick as a component. That was the one thing we knew we wanted to do, is we wanted to make a game where the guitar pick was the component, because it just hadn't been done. So we started with the component. We didn't start with the theme. We didn't start with a mechanic. We started with a component. So it's very, very different from our usual path to making games. But it worked out really well. It was Re-Chord went through a lot of development because we had to sort of understand how to teach players what a fretboard was and things like that, and do it in a way that was still fun. So it took a lot of time. I think about 1.5 years of development before we decided to actually put it up and start trying to get it funded. So.
Okay. Well, it's look. I mean, from the production stills and stuff, it looks pretty cool. It's like,
well, thank you. Yeah, we take a lot of pride in even our prototypes are being pretty spot on. We sent them out to reviewers, and they said, this is already a neoprene playmat. Usually we get a cardboard. And we said, well, we like to give a nice give a nice idea of what we're really trying to achieve. And since we've published games before, we have we're fortunate to be able to do that. So
okay. Well, why don't you give us a rundown of the mechanics and the victory conditions and so forth?
Sure. So your victory points in Re-Chord are fame. You're trying to gain the most fame because that's what guitarists do. I mean, we're all show-offs. We all want to, just show off all of our guitar licks. So you earn fame, and the way you do that is by playing real guitar chords. So like we were mentioning, there's a fretboard that you actually have laying down in front of everyone on the table. And a G chord requires you to put your fingers in 3 locations on the actual fretboard. And a G chord card, for the purposes of our game, will have 3 different pick colors. So there's different pick colors. Each one has a different power that allows you to manipulate and move picks around, or take them off the board, or put them on the board. And you want to get certain pick colors into these 3 locations for the actual G chord finger locations that you'd actually play a real chord on. As soon as you do that, you get to play that chord down in your tableau right in front of you, and you've got it. Even if the board changes, no one can take that away from you. You've got those points. If you get, the 3 chords that make up your chord progression to make your song, you get to play your song, and you get more points for completing a song. All the while, everyone at the very beginning of the game is given a secret color, and as the picks fill up, all the picks are tied to one of the secret player colors. So as the picks fill the fretboard, there's various scoring opportunities that allow players to get secret points just for their color. And they're actually scored just for the colors, so nobody knows what it is until the end of the game, and then you'll all reveal your genre, which is your color.
Okay.
And that allows you to sort of have a known scoring element, which is the chord cards and the song cards. And then you have an unknown scoring element, which is the sort of lead guitar scoring and the picks filling up on the guitar fretboard. So that represents, you're actually just shredding the whole fretboard. So whoever has the most of their picks together in certain places wins, or gets more points for the lead guitar scoring.
Okay.
So at the end of the game, you just add together your chord cards, your song cards if you completed them, and then your lead guitar genre score for the color pick that you had, and whoever has the most fame wins.
All right. Now, question about the chords. Is there any bar chords in here?
There are not. They would require so many picks that they would just make it brutal. But we do have essentially all of the first position major chords, and then even a few minor, like a minor 7th, which is a pretty popular chord in a lot of songs. So just some of the more common chords played on the first position. And then through the Kickstarter and the stretch goals, they've actually started unlocking some of the second position chords that play into the 5th fret. And the way that works is you only ever play with 7 chords, so it makes the game very nice and modular. There's going to be sets of songs, and you'll take a set of song cards, and you'll need X amount of chords that go with that. And so with each set of songs, you'll have a different set of chords you can play with, which are going to be different locations on the fretboard. So it makes it to where you don't sort of memorize the 7 chords in the game and always play the right places for those and things like that. It can make it modular to where it's a little more fun, and you learn a little bit more about the fretboard as well.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I've just been reminded. Here we are talking about you don't need to be a musician to play this, and here I am using musician lingo.
Sure, and that's one of the first things we do in the rule book is actually we have a diagram of what the fretboard is, of what a fret marker is, of what an inlay is. So that way people understand, the terms as they're explained. And then we have our keywords in nice big bold words. So that a fret is a very important thing to pay attention to in our game. So that's, like I said, if you play the game, you'll definitely learn at least the spatial orientation and sort of what happens when you look at a fretboard. You'll be less intimidated to pick up a guitar potentially.
Yeah, that's good. Hopefully that will encourage some more people to actually. Oh, okay, this is yeah. I think I might be able to learn guitar now, and might.
It really does. Yeah, it teaches you that there's only there's 6 locations per group of fret, and I mean it really is just a numbers thing. You go, oh well, you just do the same thing here, here, or here, and you've got a chord. So it's a pretty interesting dynamic to see people playing it and sort of going, oh, that's how a guitar works. I never even knew that. That's sort of a really pleasant thing. I've been a guitarist my whole life, and I'll never be a famous musician, but turning people onto music in some sort of way is a really, really satisfying thing. So
that's neat. And yeah, in case people are still wondering what a bar chord is, it has nothing to do with this game, but it's basically when you fret all 6 strings with your pointing finger and
yeah. Your index finger goes across an entire fret, and then you play the rest of the chord with your other 3 fingers. Yeah. Those are very, very useful chords. Absolutely.
Yeah, I haven't I've been learning guitar for the past few months, but I haven't gotten to that point. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm just just let me play my power chords.
I'll tell you a quick funny story. When I was in high school, I wanted to be a guitarist, and even in college, I think my first year I was a music major. I was learning classical guitar. I was going to be a music major. I was going to do this thing for the rest of my life. But in high school, I don't know if you remember, they had those squeeze trainers with the sort of springs on them for each finger, and you could just sit there and squeeze those. And I'd take one of those to school every day and sit in class and do those squeeze trainers just so that I could have a stronger, fingers and be more agile. And I still can't play well. I mean, you have to practice. You don't just sit there and do some, of course it's I did one of those just so I could start to play bar chords well. And I'm not sure it helped a bunch, but they're it's just about practice. I mean, you just got to do it over and over, muscle memory, and then you sort of, build up those muscles in your forearm. Yep. Fortunately, you don't have to do any of that in Re-Chord. You just get to sit back and flip some picks up and down and have some fun.
There we go. Now, the game plays 1 to 5 players. Now, is there unique mechanics or setup as far as multiplayer versus just solo play?
Yeah, so the solo actually uses an Atoma deck that's inspired by Morten Peterson and Jamie Stegmeyer's Scythe and Viticulture solo play. Yeah. I am a very, very big solo gamer. I play games with my friends a ton, but a lot of times I like to play a game at 2:30 or 3 in the morning. I stay up late. And solo games are perfect for that. You can start a game at 1 in the morning, and it doesn't matter that you finish at 3. So I play a ton of those, and Viticulture and Scythe are 2 of my favorites. I just really like the way the Atoma scales up. So ours does the same. It has 3 different levels of difficulty. I played it the other night on stream against myself, and I won by 9 points on the easiest. So I mean, it is a pretty brutal. It's pretty brutal. It's not a super simple solo, but I've found that solo players like their games to be difficult. They don't want an easy win. They want to be able to sort of battle the game and really have a thinky situation to get through it. How do I beat this sort of point race against an AI? And it's, our AI is simply going through some very simple motions, so it keeps it really easy for the solo player. But that's a completely different game, to be honest. The solo is a race against time, and you're trying to play quickly, whereas the multiplayer, you're trying to sort of vie for space on the fretboard while also finishing your chord and song. The solo, you're in a real race.
Okay. All right. Now, I understand, are people able to play this game now on Tabletop Simulator and Tabletopia?
Absolutely, yeah. So the links are both there on the Kickstarter campaign page. The Tabletopia was actually published, I believe, yesterday. So that's like brand new that folks can hop on and start playing that one. And Tabletop Simulator, we actually tested the game on there a ton. And now the newest module is updated with all the new stuff. It's even actually set up for the stretch goal that we're waiting to unlock, which is the green punk genre, which adds a new pick color, green, to the entire game. It was meant to be an expansion, but we just it feels so silly to just have a separate set of cards for just the base game and then add in a whole new set of cards for an expansion. Feels kind of money grabby to me personally, so we decided that we're just going to go ahead and have it as an unlock, which it looks like we're most likely going to hit. I don't want to assume anything, but it looks like we'll probably hit it here, and unlock a whole new player genre and pick power. So I guess the easiest way to put that is that it's essentially just a way to make the game even deeper. Mm-hmm. And it's a really, really fun way to extend the game and make it play a little bit better as well. So we're planning on adding that, and that really, really helps the Toma as well, and helps that sort of change the experience.
Yeah, and I think this games like this would really lend itself really well to expansions and stuff. I mean, do you have plans to come out with different decades of songs or different genres? Or
yeah, so we've thought about some different stuff, and the way the game works is since you need a certain set of chord cards to kind of go with certain sets of song cards. We've come up with some ways that we could probably make that work with like little booster packs that people could get that have a full expansion in it. A booster pack has a probably bad connotation. I'm not saying a blind chase pack of any sort. These would be full expansions in a little sealed aluminum. But the reason that we would do that is it makes it so much cheaper to just send it out to everybody and it's done. It's ready to go. It's possible that we do have some plans for the expansion. The first thing we want to do is we want to make sure that everybody's really happy with the product that we're, putting together on Kickstarter. We're still asking for feedback on things like the rule book. We're going through another draft update on the rule book. Since we have the month of February where our manufacturing is shut down for the Chinese New Year, we kind of get a nice little, this was planned as part of this campaign, was we get a nice little buffer. First of all, we've got a backer. It's unfortunately or fortunately, whichever way you want to think of it, it's sold out. But it was a pledge level to create your own song card, and backers can create their own song card to be part of the game. But we've given them 30 days after the end of the campaign to do that. Well, we did that while our manufacturing will be shut down, so we're not slowing down the production of the game at all. We would already be waiting. So we've timed it to where we have some nice leeway there to make sure we update everything. All that being said, an expansion is not something that's, impossible. It's just definitely not at the forefront of my mind right now. I think Andrew and I both have kind of been real steadfast about making Re-Chord the best possible game right out of the gate, which is why instead of an expansion, we made the punk genre just a stretch goal that we can add into the game. Fortunately, it looks like we're going to get there. So
okay, great. So what kind of songs do we have as part of the game?
So we're waiting on a bunch of them to come from the backers. I've got a few examples I can give you.
Sure.
Sure. So the one that we show off in the video that gets a giggle pretty much every time is Pink Floyd, Uncomfortably Dumb. So it's and then another one that I've mentioned at a few conventions is Eric Claphan's Tears in New Haven. I'm trying to think. I did a couple more just for the Tabletopia and the Tabletop Simulator modules, so there would be some in there. And this was just me fooling around, but I did do some the other day. So I mean, yeah, they're just parodies of essentially, popular songs. We're doing the best we can without getting sued. I think some people have asked us if there's any way possible we can do real songs. I'd love to. It'd be fantastic. But the problem is that we need licensing agreements for all that sort of thing. And those can either be expensive or hard to obtain or, not well thought out if they're not written up the right way. So it's, it's possible. It's just far more difficult.
Yeah. You won't have much of a game if the only thing you were able to play is Happy Birthday. So.
This is true. Yeah, there are some open source ones, but that really does limit what you can do. I agree with that. Unfortunately, the open source ones do tend to be Happy Birthday and other songs, the hokey pokey that, while everyone knows them, probably aren't great guitar songs. And we definitely want to kind of like have guitar songs. So I'll give you another couple of the examples just for fun here. And these are, again, I don't know, these may make it into the game. But again, the backer ones are the ones I really want to show off. But Radio Bread Crepe. is another one. And then Draft Pint, Get Plunky is another one, I think. So, yeah, there's all kinds of silly ones. The idea is to kind of just be silly about songs that have neat guitar hooks in them, and then we put each of those songs has the actual sort of main hook or the main guitar riff. Progression is the way that you finish playing that song. So it gives you an idea of what that progression you're hearing is. So you'll go, oh, okay, and Get Lucky or, Get Plunky, what they're making fun of here, these 3 chords are what make up those, 3 chords that I'm always jamming out to. Interesting. So you sort of learn that, music actually only has X amount of chords, and it's just a different mixture of these, chords that you hear that you start to enjoy. And it's an interesting thing for people to sort of start to see that there's a letter behind the sound.
Right. Now, tell us a little bit about you have an additional thing here of something called Stir Fry.
Sure. So, Stir Fry 18 is our hit little micro game. It's an 18-card micro game where you bluff to cook the best stir fry as fast as you can. And essentially, it's a tiny little 18-card game that we came up with in 2015 and took to PAX South for our first ever real convention or show. And we sold out of it in a weekend. And I think we're on our 4th reprint now and about to have to print it again. So it's
wow.
Yeah, we've been selling Stir Fry now since 2015 exclusively through our website and at conventions, and it's the reason Yanaguana exists, to be honest. It's without Stir Fry we wouldn't have been able to go to conventions or do any of the things that we've done, or honestly take this long to develop Re-Chord. So it's a great little game, but the one of the main places we have it available is a website called Board Game Arena, where you can play board games online. And it's available to play there. And a large amount of that population that plays there is from overseas, mostly Europe, somewhat, I think, Australia as well. Huh. And we've never offered the game there. We only offered it in the U.S. prior till now. And so, or prior to now. And the Kickstarter gives, I guess, the international shipping option for that, which is... I've gotten a few emails already. Thank you. We can finally get it. We wanted it over here for so long and stuff like that. So we're also working on getting it into the hands of some friends in the EU so they can ship it out from then after that. But it's, Stir Fry is a great little game. It's 18 cards. It fits in your pocket, and it's plays from 2 to 5 players, 15 minutes. You're done. It's perfect lunchtime game. And if you're hungry or you're waiting for food, it's just going to be, it's in that theme of, Stir Fry. So it's great.
Okay, that's neat. Yeah, it sounds like word certainly got around across the world. For a game that you only had available here in the States.
Yeah, Board Game Arena is a great place to go play games. I actually play some of my favorite board games on there that take a long time because it's got asynchronous play as well as live play. And so if I want to play a Euro that takes hours, sometimes I can play with different people on there. And they'll be from, Denmark or different places in Ireland or, it's interesting. So I not only get to meet people from all over the place, and then I'll play Stir Fry on there sometimes too and meet people that are enjoying our game. I also get to sort of make those connections of, oh, well, if you enjoy it, then, we've got this other game that's got guitars and stuff. You might enjoy this. And we get to talking about games and what people enjoy. And it's a big part of my life is playing games with people and hearing what they like about it, because I think that's how you make better games, is listening to people that play them say why they like them. So. Yeah,
that's and I always big advocate of just the social interaction of getting out there and making new friends and creating memories, sitting around the table playing games. Nothing like it.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't remember most of the times that I've gone to a store and gone to check out with some big major purchase that I'm sure I felt good about for a moment. But I can remember the scores of even some of the best games from a few years ago for big, massive games where some of my favorite people in the world and I were playing, and some epic thing happened. I can tell you the score of this Scythe game when right after it came out we all played, and it was just amazing. I took over his land at the very right moment at the end, and it was those things are so vivid and so incredible. So yeah, I totally agree. Those are the memories that tend to stick, are the ones made around a table or, with friends doing an activity, especially like board games. Board games is absolutely a great catalyst for discussion and all sorts of other things too.
Oh, definitely. Well, thank you so much, Marshall. And if you don't mind, we started, I guess about a few episodes ago, playing a little game with our guests, just so people could, just to get to know what kind of personality and kind of person you are. And it has nothing really to do with the game, but just a little fun little thing we do called the Mega Meeple Rapid Fire Round.
All right, and, that sounds fun. All right,
you're not being timed, so don't worry about that.
Yeah, all right, good. I was about to put my watch on.
Okay. All right. So starting off, zombies or vampires?
Zombies.
Zombies. All right. Let's see. Action or comedy?
Comedy. 1000% comedy.
All right. And here's something that has maybe a little bit to do with the game. Rock or jazz?
Oh, rock. I like jazz, but rock's going to win that one if I'm listening to it all the time. Rock. Yeah.
Alrighty. Game of Thrones or The Walking Dead?
Game of Thrones, hands down.
All right, there we go. And winter or summer?
Winter.
All right. Great. All right. Thank you so much, Marshall. Now, if people want to find out more about you or the game or the Kickstarter, where would they go?
Okay. So for the game, they can go onto Kickstarter currently and look for Re-Chord. That's RE-CHORD. So chord like a guitar chord. You can also, and I made everything so easy to spell, right? You can also go to yanaguanagames.com. That's YANAGUANA. And that's our website. That'll take you straight to the Kickstarter as well. If the Kickstarter is already over, that should have the pre-order information on how to get a hold of Re-Chord if you're listening to this later. Right. If you want to find out about me, mostly BoardGameGeek.com, I guess. And my designer profile there, you just look up Marshal Britt. Or you can just send me a message. I'm a pretty approachable and friendly person. So just say, hey, I want to know something about you, and I'll be glad to tell you. Rather than spying on my Board Game Geek page. So, yeah.
There we go. And, of course, we'll put links to all those things into show notes of this episode.
And our Twitter and Facebook are both on there. I'm very active on Facebook in terms of talking to our fans there, talking to people who play the games or have questions. So that's always a great way to get a hold of me. It's until something better comes along, that's where I spend a lot of my time interacting with folks who want to know about the game.
Okay.
All
right, great. Well, Marshall, thank you so much for being a guest on our show. And,
thank you for having me.
Congratulations on a Kickstarter, and looking forward to playing Re-Chord and getting my chops worked up here and
yeah, we're thrilled. We can't wait to get it to your hands. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for listening to the Mega Meeple. Stay tuned next week as we have a very, very important episode. So important that I have two guests coming on, Mandy Hutchinson of the Dice Tower and Brittany Bowe of the Game Wire. Now, next week's episode is going to be one of the more important episodes we have, so please make sure you tune in and listen to that and tell all your friends about it, because it's going to be epic. And if you enjoyed the show and like to support it, you can go to our Pod Pledge page or our Patreon page. Again, all those links are on the social media page on our website. And make sure to go to iTunes and subscribe to the podcast. And while you're there, leave us some 5-star loving. So thank you so much for listening, and we hope that you will listen again next week. So until then, we'll see you at the gaming table.